Hello, everyone, and welcome to my live tarot Q&A. My name's Kate, the Daily Tarot Girl, and I'm really looking forward to hanging out with you this morning and answering all your burning questions about tarot card reading. So this live stream is going to be a little bit different from some of my other ones. Usually I read tarot cards, but for this, I'm not going to be doing readings, but I am here to answer your questions. So you can ask me absolutely anything, whether you have a question about learning tarot, giving tarot readings, psychic development, intuition development, or any other question that you have for me. I would love to answer it for you. So Musam, hello. Um, and Musam, I see you have a question about a job thing. Yeah, so this is a little different. I'm not going to be doing readings. I'm not going to be pulling cards, but I am going to be answering questions about tarot. So hello, Meredith. Welcome. Hello. All right. So let me know if you have any questions. So I will start off by asking a question because there isn't any questions just yet. So I'm going to start by asking a common question that I get asked a lot. And that is, what are some books that you could recommend for a tarot beginner? So I have my favorite tarot books here that I'm going to show and I'm going to talk about. So the first book that I love is A Magical Course in Tarot by Michelle Morgan, and it says reading the cards in a whole new way. And this is it's quite a short book. So it's not totally jam-packed. It's got tarot meanings, it's got other information about tarot, but it's not an overwhelming book, and that's what I like about it. So it's kind of short and sweet, but it packs a punch. It's really powerful. And she kind of introduces a more laid back approach to tarot, more of kind of an intuitive approach. And I just really appreciated her style of writing, and her whole approach to tarot really kind of softened. It really influenced my own approach to learning tarot. It really kind of softened my approach a little bit. And it allowed me to relax and have more fun with my cards. So I highly recommend this book. And another book that I love, which is totally different from that book, is Learning the Tarot by Joan Bunning, a tarot book for beginners. And she lays out all the basics. And I actually particularly love her meanings, the way she does the meanings. So she has like keywords at the top, and then she has like different ways of looking at it, and then a little description. And I actually use this book all the time as a reference. If I get stuck on a card, sometimes I'll maybe I shouldn't admit to doing that, but sometimes you get a card and you're just like, okay, I feel like I'm missing something. And yeah, so I use this book a lot. I refer to this book a lot. So what else do I want to say about this book? It has everything you kind of need to know. She gets into reversals, meanings, spreads, card combinations, all of that stuff. So really like this book. It's kind of like a course. It's like you're taking a course in learning tarot. And then the other book that I absolutely adore is Tarot for Yourself. And this is by Mary Kay Greer. And it's a workbook for personal transformation. And this book, I discovered this book at a really important time in my tarot journey. So I was kind of getting frustrated and I was starting to lose interest in learning tarot because I was really fixated on like memorizing the meanings and learning the keywords. And then I discovered this book, and it opened up this whole new way of reading. So it was more about using the cards for yourself and journaling and self-exploration. And so this book is packed with like some really fun exercises, like some different exercises. And yeah, I had so much fun with this book, and it really kind of opened up a new way of looking at the cards. So those are my top three books, and I see there's lots of questions here. Okay. All right. Ooh, lots of people. Yay. Okay. Rox Vanilla, hello, welcome. Lori, hello, welcome. New Life Steve. Hello, Steve. Okay, so Steve, you say, I've been reading for decades, but find it difficult to bring myself to do it professionally rather than just for friends. How do I overcome my hesitation? How did you, if you were hesitant? Yeah, so I don't think I was hesitant, but of course I struggled with like confidence and all of that stuff that all professional readers probably struggle with. I think I was very motivated to start doing it professionally. I was really excited by that prospect, so I wasn't really hesitant. I think for you though, you've been reading for a long time and you notice that you're hesitant to do it professionally. So if I were you, I would explore why you want to read professionally. What is it about reading professionally that appeals to you? What are your reasons for reading professionally? Because you don't have to. And I think a lot of people think that if you've been reading for a long time and you have experience that eventually reading professionally is the end goal or whatever, and you don't ever have to read professionally. So but if you want to and you find yourself kind of intrigued by that and drawn to that, then explore why do you want to read professionally, and get really clear on what your intentions are around reading professionally. And I think once you get clear on why you want to read, some of that hesitation might start to kind of melt away. And then also ask yourself, what makes me hesitate? What is it about reading professionally that is making me hesitate? What is stressing me out? So for me, when I started reading professionally, charging money for a reading stressed me out because it put a lot of pressure on me as the reader. I thought, okay, if I'm charging people money, this has to be good and they have to like it. And I have to say, interesting things. This has to be good. I can't just look at the cards and go, you know, when you're reading for a friend, you're doing it for free, there's no pressure. It doesn't have to be good because they're not paying for it. So for me, that was a big kind of hurdle to get over. And I'm trying to remember how I got over that. I think it was just experience, just getting out there, doing more and more professional readings, and eventually I kind of got over that just through forcing myself to keep doing it and to keep at it. But I would say I still notice a difference sometimes when I'm reading for free versus being paid to read. It's not as pronounced now, but sometimes when I'm just giving a free reading, like does feel more relaxed, right? Because it doesn't have to be good. No one's paying you. So yeah, that's definitely a big thing to overcome. All right. Hello, Nikita. Allison. Hey, Allison. Happy Sunday to you too. Lizzie, hello. You're in Ohio. Okay. And Lizzie, you said, I have that book. It's great. Which book? Because I just held up like three books. I'm curious to know what book it is that you have. Alyssa, hello. Okay, so Alyssa, you said, I would love to hear about how you first got into tarot if you want to share. Absolutely. And it's funny because I feel like I've told this story so many times, so I kind of stopped telling it because I'm like, I don't want to bore people with telling them this boring story about how I got into tarot again and again. But I keep forgetting that not everyone has heard this story. So I first got into tarot, I was about 24, I think. So it was maybe, let's see, yeah, like 20 years ago, like almost 20 years. Yeah, 20 years ago. So I've discovered tarot. It was during a time in my life where I was in kind of a transition. And I'm going to ask all of you, notice when you discover tarot, because I have a theory that many of us come to tarot when we're going through a difficult time, when we're in kind of a transition, we're struggling with something, we have a lot of questions, and that is often when people discover tarot and start to get interested in it. So I was in this funny phase in my life where I had this job. I was working in a bank and it was a very stable job. It was super boring and unrewarding, and I really didn't like it. And I really didn't fit in well with the corporate culture. I didn't do well. I didn't do well having a boss and all of that. I just didn't I didn't like having a schedule. There's like so many things I hated about having this job. And I was pretty miserable. And a girl I worked with was into tarot. And so sometimes she would talk about it and I was like, that's kind of interesting. And then I ended up quitting that job and not having another job to go to. And so I was in this weird place where I'm like, what do I do next? What do I do with my life? And then I thought, maybe I'll get a tarot deck because I was thinking of my friend and her tarot cards. And I'm like, maybe I'll get a tarot deck and I'll ask the tarot deck these questions. And so I started kind of doing some research into tarot and to get my first deck. And it surprised me because I think up until that point, I'd always thought that tarot, along with other things like other like tea leaf reading, mediumship, all that stuff, I thought that you had to be born knowing how to do it. Like I thought you had to have a grandmother or mother who had taught it to you. And I didn't know just any regular person could just go out and buy a tarot deck and get some books and learn. And I know that sounds crazy now, but this was a while ago. Like the internet was still kind of newish, and like I feel so naive saying this, but like I didn't know that you could just learn tarot, or I didn't think I could learn tarot. I thought it was, this like innate skill that you kind of had to have. And so as I started looking into tarot and realizing, oh, this is just something I could learn, like what? I could get a book and learn this. I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. So I ordered a couple books and I ordered a couple of decks and I started learning. And I had this fantasy that I could learn tarot really quickly, like in a few weeks. And then I could go to parties and read for people, and people would be really impressed. And everyone would want to talk to me. Everyone would want me to do a reading for them. And so that was kind of the thing that kind of motivated me, really. And what I discovered when I started learning tarot is like, this is an amazing tool just for me, just for myself. And that's when I started to get into tarot journaling and all that good stuff. So that is kind of how I discovered tarot. So that's the long version of that story. And thank you so much, Alyssa, for asking for asking me that question. Greg, hello, Greg. Greg, you're in Reno. Welcome. Good to see you again. Okay, so Allison, you said you've got tarot for yourself and you really like it. Yeah, this is a fun workbook. Lots of fun. Witness 2229, hello. Thanks for being here. Okay, Alyssa, you said you are the second person to recommend tarot for yourself in the past week. Oh, interesting. Wow. And like there's so many tarot books out there, and I've only read, a small portion of them, honestly. Um, so there are other books out there. These are just the ones that I have read and I have worked with. I have a lot of books that I've like dipped into and read bits and pieces, but haven't read them in their entirety and haven't necessarily worked too closely with them. But the books I'm recommending are ones that I have worked closely with. Okay. Do you have any thoughts? So this question is from Witness. Actually, I'll show this on the screen. Okay. Do you have any thoughts about group collective readings versus private personal? I've stuck-ish transitioning to group readings, but I really want to. Okay, so a group collective reading. So when I do my weekly readings on my YouTube channel, those are basically collective reading. I'm reading for whoever happens to watch the video. That's like a group reading. Do I have any thoughts about them? I feel like no, I guess I don't. I think when I do a collective reading, I feel like it's less pressure somehow, and I can be a little more vague. Whereas when you're doing a personal reading just for one person, I often feel maybe a bit of a pressure to be a little more specific. And when I do a collective reading, I think most people watching are probably going to resonate with a part of that reading, but probably not the whole thing. And I notice that when I watch other readers give collective readings, usually there's one part of their reading that I really resonate with, and then the rest doesn't make sense to me. Like I love watching, I don't know if anyone here watches Lee Harris's videos. He's an energy intuitive and a channeler, and I love his YouTube channel. So it's Lee Harris, and every month he posts a energy update reading. And I find that the first part of his reading always resonates with me. Usually I'm like, aha, that makes sense. That I really resonate with that. And then the other stuff he says, I'm like, nope, this does not apply to me. Like this, this applies to someone else. This doesn't apply to me. Um, but I think that that's often true when you're reading just for an individual. Like, yeah, I think when you're reading for an individual, not everything you say is necessarily going to resonate with them. So I don't think I've really answered your question. Do I have any thoughts about group collective readings versus personal private? I just think that a group collective reading, it's more, for me, it's just more laid back. And I feel like I can be more vague um, with a group reading, whereas individual, I feel I have to be a bit more specific. So that's my take on it. Yeah, and you said you're stuck transitioning to group readings. Group readings are fun. And I'm assuming you mean like doing a reading for like a collective. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. Um they're really fun. They're fun, so don't be afraid to do it. Okay, have you ever, this is from Meredith. Have you ever tried to match a tarot card to experiences you have in everyday life? Yes, Meredith, absolutely. In fact, and the rest of your question is sometimes I find myself in a situation and my mind starts thinking, what tarot card would this be? Okay, I'm glad you asked this question, Meredith, because that is something that I teach in my upcoming course, the Daily Tarot Girl's Guide to Intuitive Tarot Reading. So I have a 4-week course that is coming up. It starts on Wednesday, so really soon. So Tuesday is the last day to sign up if you're interested. I'm going to post the link in the comments. Tarot course. All right, just give me one quick sec here. I'm just going to get the link. Okay. All right, so I think it's posting. Okay, so I just posted the link in the chat if you're interested in checking this out. So my 4-week course starts on Wednesday, and it's all about intuitive tarot reading. It's a really fun course. And each week you get 4 to 5 pre-recorded video lessons and worksheets. And then each week, we do a live Q&A, kind of like what we're doing now, but it's on Zoom. And so that's your chance to ask me any questions. And the Q&As are my favorite part. I love doing the live Q&As. And I record those as well, so you don't have to be there live to see it. And each week we have a different kind of theme. We focus on different things. And I will teach you how to read tarot intuitively. And one of the things that I teach, this is actually a lesson, is connecting the cards to your everyday life experiences. Because what I love about tarot and what I think is so fascinating about tarot is that within a tarot deck, every single card reflects something that either you've experienced in your life, maybe something you've struggled with, or an aspect of who you are, an aspect of your personality, so that we can we can establish this really intimate and personal connection with our tarot decks by studying each card and seeing how each card is reflected in our day-to-day life. So Meredith, your question, have you ever tried to match a tarot card to experiences you have in everyday life? Absolutely. And this is a fun exercise to do. Um, so you could think, at the end of the day, think back over your day and think, what tarot card or tarot cards could kind of sum up my day? Like if you had kind of a quiet, introspective day where you didn't leave the house, maybe it's the Hermit. Or if you had a day where you argued with everyone in your family, maybe it's the Five of Wands. If you had a day that was like very creative and you felt very inspired. Maybe it's the Page of Wands or the Queen of Wands. So that's a really cool exercise to do. Okay. So Allison, you said, I've taken your course twice now and it's awesome. Thank you, Allison. Yes. And a lot of people that take my course will take it again and again each year, which is such a nice compliment, I think. And Allison, you said, my favorite exercise is pulling a daily card, either at the beginning or the end of the day, and journaling about it. Yeah, that's actually an exercise that I started with when I was learning the tarot, is doing the one card a day. And I think I would do it at the beginning of the day. And I would ask, what's my day going to be like? Or what card is going to sum up the day? And then I would journal about that card. And then at the end of the day, I'd look back at that card and say, okay, how did that relate? Did that card play out in my day somehow? And so that's kind of a fun exercise to do. Okay. Will you list the books? Yes, I will. I'll list the books in the description of this video once the live feed has ended. I'll make a little list of the books that I recommend. Okay, how, this is a good one. Okay, Lizzie, how do you figure out how much to charge when reading professionally? Okay, so this is something that I wrung my hands over for a while when I was I was trying to figure out my prices. So how I did it is I looked at what people were charging in my community, and then I looked at what people were charging online. And what I noticed is people were charging kind of the same thing in my community, but online, it could be whatever. Some people were charging hundreds of dollars for a reading. Some people were charging $5. So I felt like there was this huge range online, but in my community, it was kind of in the same ballpark. So I kind of took that as like, you know, interesting information. And I like if you're reading online, and the way that I do my readings is I record them. So I don't do them live. So people will buy a reading from me, they'll send me their questions, and then I pick a time to sit and do their reading, and I record the audio of myself doing their reading, and then I, upload the audio, send it to them. I find it takes me about an hour to do a reading for someone. Even if the recording is, 40 minutes or so, it takes me an hour to like set up. I clear myself. I have like a little ritual I do at the beginning of a reading. I clear my deck, I clear myself. I do a little bit of a meditation to connect with their energy. And then once I'm finished the reading, there's a little bit of messing around. I've got to, upload the reading, send them an email, blah, blah, blah. Take a picture of their cards, all of that. So it all takes a little bit of time. So I figure it takes me about an hour to do a reading for someone. So I have to consider, how long does it take me to deliver this service? Um, and what do I think that's worth? So you kind of have to balance out, what is your time worth? How much do you want to be paid? And if you're charging too little for your time and your energy, you will start to feel resentful. And if you're charging too much, then you'll feel kind of guilty and uncomfortable or stressed out. And then you also have to consider, what are people willing to pay? So you're balancing out, well, what are people willing to pay versus what am I willing to accept? And you kind of have to think of that. And then you have to feel into your body too. So this is kind of how I did it. I started with a certain number. So let's say I'm starting with, $50 for a reading, and I'm like, okay, how does that feel? I'm like, ew, that doesn't feel like a lot of money. That doesn't feel good. What about $200? And like, that feels like a lot. I don't feel comfortable with that. So you kind of like you kind of tune into your intuition a little bit and feel into your body what each number feels like until you find the sweet spot. Yeah. Okay, here's another one about pricing. So Dayla, how much do you charge and did you start with a lower price? How has it changed over time? Yeah, so I started reading tarot, I want to say like 2012 maybe, 2011, 2012. I started reading just for people I knew and like word of mouth, and then I started doing it online. And I don't remember how much I charged. I remember I had a whole bunch of different readings that I offered. So I offered really cheap readings that were in the kind of $20 range. And then I offered more expensive ones, like with more cards. But I definitely charged a lot less than I do now. So now a lot of time has passed. I feel like I'm a much better reader. I've kind of gathered an online following, so I feel like I can charge more money. I also feel like I've kind of proven myself as well. Like you could go to my YouTube channel, you could watch how I read, you can see, that I know what I'm doing. I'm not just pretending to be able to read. So I feel like I kind of have a proven track record. So I've increased my price over time. So currently I charge $100 for a 30-minute recorded reading, $100 American, I should say, US. And I've been charging that for a while, so I might up my prices a little bit this year. We'll see. Um, but yeah, I over time I've increased my prices, and I think for that same reading, at one point I think I was maybe charging $50, like years and years and years ago, and then over time I've gathered a clientele and I've been able to raise my prices. And then of course, inflation, the cost of everything has gone up. So I needed to raise my prices over time just to account for that as well. Do you read tarot for yourself? If so, how often? And what's your favorite tarot spread for reading for yourself? Okay, so I love reading for myself. And yes, I do. I do read for myself. How often? This is a tricky one to answer. So lately I've been reading for myself um at least twice a month. I got a book, and I wish I had it here with me so I could show you. It's upstairs though. But Ethany Dawn, I don't know if everyone here knows Ethany Dawn. She's a lovely tarot reader, tarot teacher, author, deck creator, and she came out with uh, a tarot guide called I think it's called Tarot by the Moon. And there's two tarot spreads per month. So there's a new moon spread and a full moon spread, and I've been working with her book, so I've been doing 2 readings for myself a month, and then I like to use tarot, in my journaling practice. So I will sometimes do channel writing or journaling. And sometimes I'll incorporate drawing a tarot card or two into that practice. So for that, I don't use a spread. I'm just drawing one card or a couple cards. So I would say maybe, yeah, I would say I read for myself at least a couple times a month. And there's some months maybe I'll read for myself a few times. And then sometimes I won't read for myself at all for a month because maybe I have nothing going on and I don't feel called to read. Yeah. Thank you for your question, Angelina. Oh, wow. So, Steve, you said you discovered tarot at 17 and you're 69 now. So it really is decades. That's incredible. That's amazing. Okay. Conchi, what meaning do you do what meaning do you give to the jumping cards in a reading? Like when you're shuffling the cards and a card flies out, what meaning do you attribute to it? So I think that those cards are so special. When you're doing a read, when you're shuffling your cards and you get a jumper card, I think that those cards are special. I think that's the tarot deck saying, hey, pick this one. One thing that sometimes happens to me is I'm kind of sloppy when I'm shuffling and a whole bunch will come out. I don't count those ones. I put those ones back in, but if one card pops out, I'm like, "Oh wow, this is a special one." So I'll take that card, I'll put it to the side, and I'll usually look at that card first. So even if I'm doing a spread and I choose all my other cards and lay them out, I'll start with the jumper card first because that is the message that the tarot really wanted me to have. That's what I would start with. Okay, this girl on fire. Funny that I started on the part of the live stream where you share your story which resonates. Got corporate bank job, unaligned, left work, nothing lined up. Here I am. Oh, I'm so glad you can relate. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the perfect time to get into tarot, I think, when you're looking for answers, you're looking for direction because I think that for me, tarot has been like a line of communication to my higher self or to my soul or my spirit guides or my spirit team, however you want to think of it, the universe. It's been that kind of direct line of communication. So I think tarot is so special in that way, in that it can connect us to the bigger picture and that deeper part of ourselves. Okay, how do you read court cards in a situation? Plus, any suggestions for reading the court cards? Okay, how do you read court cards in a situation? Not exactly. I like that your name is Queen of Cups and you're asking about court cards. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by in a situation. But I'm guessing you mean like reading court cards, in a specific kind of reading. Court cards, I'll talk a little bit about the court cards. So court cards are tricky. I really struggled with the court cards for years. And the reason I struggled with the court cards is because they all look really similar. Now I'm just going to show you some court cards from uh, this is my universal weight tarot deck. So we've got, Queen of Swords, Queen of Pentacles, King of Wands, and they all kind of look the same, right? Like there's different stuff on the cards, but they're all kind of similar. And like the court cards aren't really doing anything. I mean, the knights are all charging forward on their horses, but the court cards aren't really doing much. And they all kind of look the same. And I would get them all confused and mixed up. So I did struggle to read the court cards. The thing that helped me start to understand the court cards was understanding the four tarot suits. And this is another thing that I really get into in my upcoming 4-week course on intuitive tarot reading. If you want to sign up, we start on Wednesday, and I would love to have you in my course. So this is something I get into in my course, but understanding the essence of each suit and really connecting with each suit and its properties helped me understand the court cards. So for example, the suit of swords corresponds with the element of air. Swords is all about the mental aspect of life. So this is your intellect, your mind, and your mind's ability to reason, to organize things, um, to communicate. And so knowing that about the suit of swords, that gives us some insight into the personality of the Queen of Swords. And if you see your court cards as being kind of like people with personalities, that will also help you learn them and understand them and read them when they come up in a reading. Now, when a court card comes up in a reading, a fun thing to do is to think of that card as being like a person that's popped up in the reading with a distinct personality, and they are giving advice. They're saying things to you. So let's say you're doing a relationship reading, Queen of Swords comes up. What does the Queen of Swords tell you about relationships? What kind of advice would she give you about your relationship situation? And so that helped me kind of connect more with the court cards and understand them a little bit better. Okay, thank you for your question, Queen of Cups. Okay. Next question is, um, I'm just sorry, I'm scrolling down to find a question. There's lots of comments here. Um, okay. Oh, Hyperboreasy. Not a question, but thank you for all these years of content and teaching. Thank you, Kate, for everything. You're so welcome. Yeah, I've been on YouTube now for a while. I want to say, God, how long has it been? Uh, has it been 15 years? I think it's been 15 years. Yeah, it's been a long time. And it's been such an honor to be able to do readings for everyone and to create content for everyone. And if you're watching and you're not subscribed to my channel, I would so love it if you subscribed to me. It really would help my channel out. Yeah, just giving my channel a plug. I feel like I don't ask people to subscribe often enough. I'll do a video and I'm like, oh, I forgot to remind people to subscribe to my to subscribe to my channel. Okay. Okay, Lori. Okay, so Lori, you only read for yourself and you're still getting familiar with the cards. You'd love to take my class, but it's not in the cards. Okay. Any suggestions how I can get more familiar with the cards? Yes. Okay, I feel like I have a gazillion suggestions for you, so I'm just trying to think what would be most helpful. I think tarot can be overwhelming. So when you try, like when I first came to tarot, I tried to memorize all the cards at once and all the keywords, and that's very overwhelming. That isn't the best approach to take. I think start a tarot journal. Start a tarot journal, and you can start with one card a day. And, or, depending on how much free time you have to study this, maybe it's just one card a week for a little while, but draw one card a day and sit with that card and learn as much as you can about that card and dedicate a couple pages in your tarot journal and jot down everything you notice on this card, like all the symbols, what suit it's from, and jot down your own, you could do your own personal take on what you feel like this card represents. And then you could look up the meaning and then jot down some notes, some keywords, things like that. So I think starting with doing something like that is a good way to learn the cards, and then it allows you to work through your deck slowly. Um, yeah, that's my number one suggestion. How can I get more familiar with the cards? Yeah, and just reading for yourself. Like, you don't have to learn obviously you don't need to learn all the cards before you start reading. Just doing fun spreads, fun readings, and learning as you go. The more time you spend hanging out with your cards, getting to know your cards, the more connected you're going to be to your cards and the quicker you're going to learn them. Another fun thing that I love to do is I love to just sit and go through my deck. I like to pour a glass of wine or make myself a coffee and sit. And I do this especially when I get a new deck. And I'll just sit and I'll go through the deck and I'll just look at the cards and get a feel for them. And then interviewing your tarot deck is also really fun. So asking your deck questions about itself as if it were a person, like what card sums up your personality? What do you look for in a tarot reader? What topics do you like to read about? And just asking kind of fun questions and playing around with your cards. I think one of the best ways to get more familiar with your cards is to do low pressure activities with them. I think that when we do readings for ourselves, often we're asking an important question and we have an expectation with that reading that we want the cards to make sense. We want there to be a message. We want to get an answer. And all of that creates pressure, and it can stop you from really connecting with your intuition. It can stop you from connecting with your cards. And so I think that doing low pressure activities like interviewing your tarot deck or just journaling with your cards, things like that, just sitting and looking through your deck. All of that can really help you get to know your cards and get familiar with them. Paola, hello from Italy. I love Italy. I spent a month in Italy when I was 20 something, in my early 20s in university. I did a school trip to Italy, and it was a big group of girls that I didn't know at the beginning of the trip. And we were all roomed together in this massive apartment. And we were told ahead of time the apartments that you get put in are going to be really crappy. They're like really tiny. It's going to be hot because we were there in the summer, and they're like, it's going to be, the apartments aren't nice. Like, don't expect anything good. And I was in an apartment with 8 girls. And we got this massive apartment that was so cool. And it was the most beautiful apartment I've ever seen. And it was this old building, because of course all the buildings are old there. It was this old building, and it looked out, the kitchen and dining room window looked out onto the Santa Croce in Florence. And so it had this like amazing view. And all the rooms had these murals painted on the walls and the ceilings. Like it was absolutely stunning. It was so cool. And this is making me sound like I'm this rich kid. I was not. I was not a rich kid. I swear. But it was like this really cool apartment. We just like totally lucked out. And we were like right there, right by the Santa Croce in Florence. And it was like a 2-minute walk and it was just like such a neat location. And I just had such an amazing time in Italy. Okay. Oh, I like this question. How to interpret when all bright positive cards and then a darker one? Okay. So, how do you read it when you do a reading? You get a bunch of really bright, positive, happy cards, and then you get like a really dark card. I think sometimes it's helpful when you're reading tarot, and I know this is hard, but it's sometimes helpful to let go of the idea that there are happy cards and bad cards, good cards, bad cards, negative, positive, and to just see the cards in a neutral way. Every card has some sort of message. And so a card that you might think of as being, a dark card doesn't necessarily have a dark message. Usually it's like, hey, look out for this, be aware of this. So if you get a reading that's like the Sun, Two of Cups, 10 of Cups, and then you get the Devil, it's just saying like, everything's great here, but be aware of this thing, be aware of this. And um, I'm just going to give an example of what I mean by this. So, for example, we think of Three of Swords as a pretty crappy card, right? Generally speaking. Uh, but if we see this card as being kind of neutral, it could represent pain, heartache. It's an invitation that there's something that needs to be healed. There's something that's ready to be healed. Um, Something in your heart that needs healing. So in that sense, the message is helpful. The cards always want to help us. And so if you see that whatever message a card has, it's there to help you. And so getting the Three of Swords, and I also think sometimes it's important to move away from always doing predictive readings as well, and asking, what's going to happen? How's this going to turn out? I find that those don't lead to the most helpful readings. So asking more open-ended questions about things, not trying to predict things, for me has been really, really helpful. But when you get a card like the Three of Swords, it's there to give you a helpful message to help you move forward. So it might be bringing your attention to something that you need to look at, something that could be a problem, something that could be a block that could get in the way. So for your question, if you get all positive cards, but you get one negative one, it's saying like this might be a block. This might be a thorn in your in your foot. This is something that needs addressing that you need to be aware of. Yeah, good question. Thank you. Okay, how do you feel about not reading reversals? Okay, so I didn't read reversals for the longest time. And even now, a lot of times I won't shuffle the cards in a way that has reversals. So a lot of the time I don't read reversals in my readings, and I think that's fine. I think when you introduce reversals, it adds another layer of complexity. It isn't always helpful. I think that reading all the cards upright is fine. I think that there's enough variation in the upright cards. You definitely don't need to read reversals. Some readers like to read with reversals, and I've been challenging myself more and more lately to incorporate reversals, and it's fun. I do think it adds another dimension to the reading. I don't know if it necessarily makes the reading better or deeper, honestly. It's just different. So if you don't want to read reversals, that is fine. There's plenty of well-known, established, experienced readers that don't read reversals. In fact, there's one reader, oh, and I can't remember her name. She's written a lot of books. I feel like the I feel like her name has the word Raven in it, but I can't remember. And she doesn't read reversals. And I remember her being interviewed on a podcast and her saying why she doesn't. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of why I don't read reversals either, usually. So yeah, you don't have to read reversals. Okay, so Allison, you said I get tripped up by court cards. Do they mean another person or me or the one being read for? So here's the thing. The court cards don't have to represent a person. Sometimes they do. And what to make matters worse, a court card in a reading could represent you. It could represent another person in the reading, the person being read for. Well, if you're reading for another person, let's say you're reading for another person, that court card could represent qualities that that person either needs to embody or qualities that they need to look out for, depending on the reading, depending on what's being asked, depending on the topic, the surrounding cards, etc. So it's not always clear cut. It's not like whenever a court card comes up, it refers to the person being read for. Not necessarily. It could represent someone in that person's life as well. So that's what's tricky about tarot is nothing is really cut and dry. Nothing is like super clear with tarot. Everything's a little fuzzy. And so this is where introducing and incorporating more of your intuition in your readings is going to help you navigate tarot. We can learn tarot with our minds and our intellect. We can memorize the cards, we can memorize the keywords and the meanings and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's learning how to read the cards intuitively that's really going to help you with your readings, because you will get a court card and you'll think, okay, is this me? Is this someone in my life? What's going on? And if you're reading intuitively, it's going to help you navigate that and figure that out. And sometimes when a court card shows up, it could be all of those things. So there's been times I've gotten, okay, for example, let's say I'm reading for myself and I get, let me find a court card. Of course, now that I'm looking for a court card, I'm like, ah. Okay, let's say I get the Page of Wands. So this could refer to me and some of the qualities that I'm working on and learning. It could refer to qualities I need to embody and align with. It could also refer to qualities I need to look out for. It could be all of those things. And it might represent someone that just came into my life. And so it could be all, it doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other, if that makes sense. But this is where learning intuitive tarot reading is going to help you. So I'm going to take this opportunity to plug my intuitive tarot course. And I'm going to put the link in the chat here. Okay, so my 4-week intuitive tarot course is called The Daily Tarot Girl's Guide to Intuitive Tarot Card Reading. Now, I have been teaching this class for 10 years. So this is what I think of as my signature class where I teach my style of reading, intuitive reading. And it's 4 weeks. It's a lot of fun. This is going to be the last time that I offer this course in like a live format. So each week you get 4 to 5 pre-recorded video lessons and worksheets. We do a live Q&A each week, which is also recorded. So you don't have to do any of this live if you're in another time zone or whatever. You don't have to do anything live. Everything is either pre-recorded or recorded and sent to you after. It's so much fun, and I can't wait to share it with you. So yeah, I hope you can join me, and let me know if you have any questions about my course. I'm more than happy to answer it for you. And it starts on Wednesday. So Tuesday is the last day to sign up, although I do keep it open for an extra day just for all the stragglers, because I find that most people sign up the day before or the day of. Most people are procrastinators and they leave it to the last minute. Okay. Oh yeah, okay. Steelers Nation, you said, is it Silver Ravenwolf? I think it is Silver Ravenwolf that I was referring to, who doesn't read reversals. I think that's who it is. Yeah. Oh, Angelina, you're signed up for my course. Yay, thank you. Thank you for signing up. Okay, is Rider Waite best? Or what is the best deck for beginners? Yes, so I have the Universal Weight Tarot deck here, and there's different variations on the Rider Waite. You get the classic Rider Waite, there's the Radiant Rider Waite, there's different versions of the Rider Waite, but they're all pretty much the same. They just look slightly different. I highly recommend getting a Rider Waite deck as your first deck to learn on. It's the easiest deck to learn on. And if you hate it, if you look at images of the Rider Waite online and you're like, I hate this deck, I don't like it, there's other decks that follow the Rider Waite structure and are very similar, but the artwork is very different. Like, for example, the Everyday Witch Tarot, the Modern Witch Tarot, This Might Hurt Tarot, Lightseers Tarot, Crystal Visions Tarot. All of these are pretty similar to the Rider Waite and would be fine for learning on. But my number one recommendation is to get the Rider Waite deck if you're serious about learning tarot, because if you learn on the Rider Waite deck, it's easy to then read pretty much any deck after that. Whereas if you learn on some other deck, I don't know, it's just not as good. I think learning on the Rider Waite deck is the best. It's ideal. Okay. Let's see here. Just gonna scroll back up here. Lots of good questions. These are amazing questions. Thank you everyone for being here and for asking all these very thought-provoking questions. Oh, I like this question. Pamela, have you ever had to defend yourself in a group situation where someone accuses you of tarot cards being from the devil? So the closest I came to this was at a family dinner. So my extended family is quite religious. Well, some members of my extended family, not everyone, but my extended family is pretty religious. And I was in a conversation with a cousin, and he said something, and I don't know if he even knew I was into tarot at this point. I'm not sure, but he said tarot cards are evil, and tarot cards are how the devil seduces people. And I just said, "Oh, okay." So I don't bother trying to defend myself. If someone believes that tarot cards are from the devil, that's what they believe. I'm not interested in changing their mind. That takes a lot of energy to change people's minds. I just respect that that's where they're at with it. That's how they see things. And that's fine. I'm not going to give them a reading, obviously. We're probably not going to have any interesting conversations about tarot, and that's fine. So that's what I do. I don't bother defending myself. So I think that if someone attacks you and accuses you of being, aligned with the devil because you like tarot, if that was me, I would just say, okay, like that's your take on it. I don't see it that way. It's, I don't see it that way at all. and then just kind of move on. And I know it's tricky if it's your, immediate family or a spouse or a close friend, but don't waste your breath trying to convince people otherwise. Is this recorded? I got here late. Yes, it's recorded. Yeah, all my live streams are recorded, so you can always go back and watch the beginning if you missed the beginning. Oh, I like this one. I want to know if different decks read differently. Are there some that are better asked? Are there something that are better asked of some decks than others? Yes and yes. Okay, so every deck reads a little bit differently. I think of all my decks as being like different people with personalities on my bookshelf, different consultants that I can consult. And each deck has like a different vibe, a different kind of personality, and some decks can be really harsh and some are very direct, some are kind of humorous, some are very gentle, some are kind of sassy, some are very empathetic, some are super creative, and when I read with those decks I just get so many different ideas. So every deck is a little bit different and every deck reads a bit differently. And what's interesting is, like, I might find my universal weight deck here. I might find that this deck reads in a very direct, no nonsense way. And someone else might have the same deck. And for them, maybe this deck feels very gentle, maybe almost too gentle. So just because a deck reads a certain way for one person, it doesn't mean it's going to read that way for you. So you just have to play around with different decks and figure out, which ones work for you, what styles you like. And then your other question was, are some decks better, or some questions, should you ask certain questions to some decks versus others? Like, for example, if you have a romance issue, a romance question, there's certain decks that I would go to if I had a relationship question. I mean, your tarot deck, like let's say you only have one deck, your tarot deck should be able to answer any question. It's not like, oh, you need all different decks for different topics. You don't. You just need one tarot deck. I don't want to give the impression like you need to go out there and have like 50 different decks for all your different life areas and conundrums. Um, but if I had a relationship question, I love Ethany Dawn has a tarot deck called the Modern Love Tarot, and I think it works beautifully for relationship questions. Also, Light Seers is really lovely. Crystal Visions is really gentle. Um, and if I had a career question, there's certain decks I might gravitate to for that. Um, so yeah, it depends on your relationship to the particular decks, I think. How do you feel about making up your own spreads? I love doing this and I do this most of the time. So most of the time I do just kind of make up a spread as I go. And I did share earlier that I've been working with Ethany's Tarot by the Moon PDF thing with different tarot spreads, but most of the time I just make up my spreads. And actually, this is something that I teach in my 4-week intuitive tarot course. So this is something that I focus on, is how to create your own spreads. Because I think reading with a spread that you create is so powerful and so wonderful, and it's so easy to do, right? So yeah, I think making your own spreads is probably ideal. I prefer doing this, actually. I prefer to make my own spreads. And if you're making your own spread, you can ask yourself, what is it that I want to know? What do I want help with? What is it that I want information on? And start there. But I get into this topic in a much deeper way in my upcoming course, which starts Wednesday. I hope you can join me. Hopefully I'm not being too obnoxious how I keep bringing up my course. Oh, I like this one. I'm just going to share this comment. So Lizzie, you said you have a tarot journal. At the end of the week, you check back to see if there are any repeating cards, and then journal about what the possible reasons or lessons I should pay attention to. That's cool. That's a cool process. Should I stick with one deck for a while? Yeah, I think that there's value in that, especially if you're learning tarot, if you're new to tarot, I would just stick with one deck for a while. And in fact, in my course that here I am bringing up my course again. In my course that I'm about to teach, that's something that I recommend people do is that they choose just one deck to work with for the entirety of the course. And that allows you to really connect with that deck and get to know that deck and get really close to that deck. Um, and I think if you've been reading for a while and you want to branch out and read with other decks, then that can be really, really fun. I love reading with different decks all the time. I'm always switching up the deck that I'm reading with. But I think that if you're new to tarot and you're still learning, sticking with one deck can be really helpful. Okay. All right. So, um, Alyssa, you said you record your daily card pulls in a spreadsheet, so that it's easy to go back and see how often I'm getting certain cards. I'm such a nerd. That is very nerdy. Almost sounds like something a Virgo would do. I wonder if you're a Virgo. Okay. Oh, and Black Widow's bitch. You asked me on my last live stream why your comments weren't showing up on my YouTube videos, and I have no idea. I looked into this, I did a deep dive. I'm not seeing your comments. It's not going to spam. I have nothing in my spam, which is weird. So I don't know what's happening to your comments. But they're showing up here on my lives, but they don't show up on my videos. It's really weird, and I don't know. I'm sorry. It's a weird tech glitch that's happening. So what's your advice with reading with a tarot deck that has a very simple imagery, especially when it's court cards? Um, okay, so I'm going to change your question just slightly because and I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but there's some decks out there that are referred to as pip decks, meaning that the major arcana cards are illustrated, but the minors are very simple. So they will two of swords will just be two swords. You know, three of swords will just be three swords. Like there's not a whole scene depicted on the card. It's very simple, kind of similar to like playing cards almost. Um, so those decks are tricky to read with. I don't love reading with those decks. I don't have a lot of those types of decks. They're not my favorite. And they really require to already have a really good understanding of the tarot if you're going to read with those cards. Reading with like a Rider-Waite style deck where there's pictures on all the cards, those are, you know, relatively easy to read with. But reading with a pip deck or a very simple deck, it's much more challenging. So my advice to reading with a deck like that is to get to know the cards really, really well. So you have to know, you really have to have it memorized what every card means. And you do this by learning the suits, so learning what each suit is about, and then learning what each number is about. And so when those really simple cards come up, you can go, okay, what suit is it from? That gives you some information. And what number is it? That gives you information. And then you're just kind of relying on memory. It's tricky, I think, sometimes to read intuitively or with your imagination when there isn't a scene depicted on a card. It's like hardcore tarot reading with a deck like that. Oh, Alyssa, you're a Gemini, not a Virgo. Okay, my apologies. Didn't mean to accuse you of being a being a Virgo. Um, have you ever tried the archetypes or alchemy deck? I don't think so. I don't think I have. No. How do you use intuition with the simple decks? Uh, I feel like I use memory more than intuition when I read with those decks. Because when I'm reading with I have one tarot deck called the Mystic Meg deck, which is a pip deck. And when I'm reading with that deck, I'll turn over a card and I'll just kind of in my memory go to, okay, what's the rider Waite version? What does the rider Waite version look like? And then I just kind of read from memory. So yeah, I I find reading intuitively it's a little trickier unless you know the cards really, really well. So if you know the cards really well, then you have a sense of the energy of each card. And so when you're reading with a pip deck, you think, okay, well, what's the energy of this card like? Like Two of Swords is feeling kind of inner mental conflict. Um, Five of Wands is conflict, usually outer conflict with others, competition. Three of Cups is joyous and celebratory. So it kind of it forces you to sort of rely on the vibe of each card more, I think. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question though. Is anyone else pissed off? It's snowing again in Calgary. I don't know. I'm in BC and it's not snowing here. It's actually really sunny today. So I'm not pissed off. But maybe I would be if I was in Calgary. Okay. Okay. Someone's mentioning the Wild Unknown deck. I don't have that deck, and that's a really popular one. People love the Wild Unknown, and that's kind of it's a different deck in that it does, I don't think it closely follows Rider-Waite style. I think it's a little bit different. How do you choose the deck you're going to use for a customer? So when I'm reading for another person, I always work with a deck. I always choose a deck that feels easy for me to read and connect with. I don't like to challenge myself in this way. If I'm reading for myself, that's different. But if I'm reading for someone else, I want an easy deck. So usually a Rider-Waite style deck that just feels easy for me to connect with. And it really is just, I go, what deck am I in the mood for? And sometimes I'll look at the deck, I'll hold the deck, and I'll just get a feeling. It's either a yes or a no. Now, if I have two or three decks and I can't decide, I'll ask the decks. I'll say, do you want to be read today? Do you want to be the deck I use for this reading? And I'll draw one card and I'll look at the card. If I got the Hangman, I'd say, maybe not, maybe not. And then I draw another card from the other deck. And whatever card felt like a yes, I would go with that deck. So sometimes that's how I choose. Oh, Lizzie, you love my tea mug. Thank you. This was made by a local potter in my area. And my husband calls this my Lord of the Rings mug because he says it reminds him of Lord of the Rings. I have a whole bunch of these mugs. Like they're all a little bit different. I think I have four or five. They're all a little bit different and unique. Okay, Swaro. You signed up for my 4-week course. Yay, thank you, Swaro. Can I have a general read? Okay, so I'm not doing readings on this live. I'm not pulling cards. I'm just answering questions. I thought it would be fun just to focus on questions about tarot and learning tarot, giving readings, all that stuff. So I'm not going to be pulling cards for this live. It's just a Q&A. Um, but I feel bad that your energy feels off and you don't know what's going on. That is rough. I would recommend pull a card for yourself, or what I like to do when I'm feeling off, because sometimes when you're feeling off and then you go to read for yourself, um sometimes the reading will feel off and you're like, I don't know how to interpret this, and it just adds to your frustration. So what I do when I'm feeling off like that is I'll get my journal I'll get my pen and I'll just do some free writing. And if I'm feeling off, I'll write about that. I'll write about how I'm feeling. I'll kind of like purge that. I'll get that out onto the page. And then once I've done that, there's something that happens. Like I feel like you start to process things. You get things moving when you start putting pen to paper like that. So I would journal about it for a little bit. And then once you've done that, then pull a card. And then, ask your card, what do I need to do to get out of this funk or to get back on track or whatever question feels right for you, and then pull that card and kind of journal about that one card. I recommend though, when you're feeling a little bit off or you're feeling kind of out of sorts, I find that less is more when it comes to tarot cards. So just working with one card, I find to be more helpful than working with 3 or 10. I would highly recommend avoiding doing, a big 10 card spread if you're feeling a bit off. Like just start with one card and then you can always add more cards from that, right? You can always work from there. Okay. Is it possible to join the course later? No. So the last day to join the course is Tuesday. But if you I'm gonna leave it open for the first day. I always leave a little bit of a buffer. So that's the last day to join my 4-week course, which starts on Wednesday. And no, I won't be taking signups later. Yeah, and this is the last time I'm going to offer this course live. So I hope you can join me if you're interested. Okay. Okay. I think, goodness, I think maybe I've answered all the questions here. Let's see. Oh, okay, there's more. More have come in. Okay, good. Um, Given history has a habit of repeating itself, have you ever thought of using more than one deck? For example, past, present, future. Yeah, so you can use more than one deck in a tarot reading for sure. I've seen people do this. I've played around with this myself. It's kind of fun. I prefer not to do it just because it feels confusing and multi-layered and overwhelming to me. I like to just stick with one deck, but you absolutely could do this. You can combine decks. You can use one deck for like one thing I used to love to do. I would do a 9 card spread, and I have all different 9 card spreads that I work with. And the top row I would use one particular deck, the middle row I would use another deck, and then the bottom row I would use a different deck. And I usually did this with oracle cards for some reason, not tarot cards. So I'd use one oracle deck for the top part, and that's fun. That is fun. Haven't done that in a while though. Okay. After a tarot reading, how does it truly affect your future? Are the outcomes fixed as seen in the cards, or can they change based on our choices, energy, and actions? Yes. So nothing is set in stone. I don't believe that the future is set on stone. I think that there's outcomes, of course, that are more likely than other outcomes, but I think that timelines are always shifting and changing based on what we're doing now. So our actions now create the future. So you can change things. Nothing is set in stone. I tend to not fixate too heavily on the future in my readings. I like to focus on the now and what's happening now. But of course, it's hard to totally not look at the future because the present moment and the future and the past, they're all connected. They're all tied in. So I don't focus my readings on the future. I like to focus on the present, but sometimes a little bit of future talk inevitably is going to happen. So after a tarot reading, does it truly affect our future? I think a tarot reading could affect your future if it helps you shift how you see things, if it gives you new ideas, if it helps you let go of something or process something, see things a different way, then yes, anything you do in the present moment is going to affect your future in some way. So in that way, a tarot reading could affect the future. Ooh, okay, Sparrow. How do you work with crystals and tarot cards? Or how do you know what crystals to use with certain decks or cards? Okay, so I love working with crystals. So I actually have a couple crystals to show you. So this is one of my favorite chunks of amethyst. It's a lighter colored amethyst. And I always think I could use this as a weapon. It's it's really heavy and it's sharp. Weird that I think of that every time I pick this beautiful stone up. So this is a beautiful amethyst, and then the other stone I chose to have here is, I think this was called a golden healer quartz. It's just quartz and it's a little bit yellow. Supposedly a golden healer quartz has some special quality. I don't know. It's just kind of yellowy. And I just was really drawn to the shape and it felt nice in my hand. Okay, so how do I use these cards with tarot? So one way I will use crystals, or how do I use crystals with tarot? One way I use crystals is I will, when I'm storing my decks, I'll put my deck on like my desk or my bookshelf, and I'll put the crystal on top, setting the intention that the crystal kind of cleanses and clears the deck of all past energies, so my deck is fresh and frisky and ready to go next time I need to read with it. You can also use crystals to help you kind of clear your mind and tune into your intuition. So, for doing this, I hold a crystal in my left hand. You could use any crystal, but I feel like for me, quartz works really well for this. There's something about quartz that just helps me kind of tune in to my intuition. This is not necessary. You don't have to have a crystal to do this, but it's just a tool that sometimes kind of helps you do this maybe more quickly. So I'll hold the crystal in my hand as I clear my mind and prepare to kind of connect to my intuition. And if I'm reading for another person, sometimes I'll hold my crystal while I'm doing my initial meditation to connect to their energy. Because I feel like it can kind of help with that process. So those are the sort of the two main ways that I use crystals with tarot. I also like to have a big crystal, especially amethyst. Amethyst works well. Amethyst helps connect you to your psychic abilities and intuition. And I like to have a big crystal on my reading table when I'm doing a reading. And I will set an intention with each crystal. So, for example, let's say I'm reading for someone and they're really going through a difficult time, and maybe they're working on healing a lot of heartbreak. I might choose a rose quartz crystal along with my amethyst. Or if someone is really freaking out and they need some grounding, I might choose black tourmaline, which is a very grounding stone. And I'll just place those crystals kind of around my reading table, with the intention that it sort of anchors the reading and brings some of those qualities of grounding or healing to the reading that I do. Okay, Alyssa, you said, what will the course look like when it's no longer live? Okay, so if you sign up for my course, you get lifetime access to all the videos, the worksheets. So once it's over, you can still go back and watch the videos, watch the recordings of the Q&As. I keep the Facebook group open so you can still post in there and everything. But I did say this will be my last time that I teach it in a live format, and I haven't decided yet if I'm just going to retire this course or if I'm going to sell it later on down the road in like a year or two, just as like a course that's not taught in a live format, um, which would just be like, you just buy like a pre-recorded course. There's no like live component. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not because it's a fun course and I like teaching it live. And I think it would lose a bit of the magic without that live component. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So this might be the last time that I offer this course. Do you ever do, oh, and I'll post the link to my course in the chat in case you're just joining and you haven't already heard me drone on and on about my upcoming course. I'll post the link in the chat if you want to check it out. Okay, do you ever do yes or no questions? No, I don't like these kinds of questions. This is another thing I get into in my course is I teach you how to ask the right questions because there are good questions and there's bad questions to ask your cards. I don't like a yes no because I feel like it's a close-ended question. It doesn't invite exploration. When I ask the cards questions, I like to ask questions that allow me to explore and expand my mind. However, I did say when I'm trying to choose a deck, and if there's a couple decks and I can't choose between them, I'll ask my tarot deck, do you want to be used for this reading? Yes or no, and then I'll draw a card. And it's either a yes or a no card. So sometimes I do use yes or no. In that specific situation, I sometimes do. And sometimes it's nice. You just want to do a quickie reading. Like you don't want to sit down and do this big reading where you spend forever. You just want a quickie question. So yeah, sometimes I will ask my cards a yes or no. But what I prefer doing, if I have a simple question like that that is a yes or no, I actually would rather just ask myself that question and notice how it feels in my body. So if I'm like, for example, let's say I'm trying to decide whether I should go to a dance workshop this weekend. I'm not sure if I want to go. So I'll be like, okay, what would it feel like if it was a yes? If I went to this workshop, how does it feel in my body? And I'll visualize myself at the workshop dancing. How does that feel in my body? And I'll just notice. And then I'll think, okay, if I don't go, if I do something else instead, if I stay home, what does that feel like in my body? And I'll just notice the difference. So that's how I prefer to ask the yes no questions. Okay. Would you say that it is significant that I had read with several different decks and felt my readings were all just kind of okay, and then suddenly I got a new deck and all my readings seem right on? Yeah, I that happens, honestly. Like when you find a deck that you really resonate with that's just really simple to read and it's just you connect with it right away, of course it makes a big, big difference. So is it significant? I think that's like a common experience. I've experienced that too. I remember the first deck I bought was a deck called the Secret Tarot, which honestly, looking back, I didn't really ever connect with. And then I also had a Rider Waite deck, which at first I didn't connect with the Rider Waite deck. And my readings were okay. And then I got, oh, what deck was it? The Robin Wood. I think it was the Robin Wood Tarot, and I really connected with that deck. And then my readings were much more rewarding and much more helpful and accurate. So it does make a difference, I think, what deck you're using. Do you use oracle cards with a tarot reading? I don't really do this anymore. I used to do this. Years ago, I used to do this quite a bit. So how I would use oracle is I would do the reading and then I would pull one oracle card at the end of the reading to kind of close the reading. And I would do that because sometimes reading with the tarot cards, someone might get a lot of really harsh tarot cards. Maybe they get the devil and the Ten of Swords and the Five of Cups and things like that. And so finishing it up, wrapping it up on a high note, on a positive note, was easier to do with an oracle card deck. So I would use like kind of a soft gentle oracle card deck, and I would do one card at the end to close the reading. And that's a beautiful way to use oracle with tarot. There's many other ways that you could do it. You could use it at the beginning of the reading too, or you could use it at the beginning and the end of the reading. I think, yeah, it's fun, I think, incorporating oracle with tarot, but I find I don't really do it anymore. I mainly just gravitate to tarot. Okay, so you're afraid now that it will suddenly stop reading so extremely well for me. Does that happen? So you're referring to the deck that you got that really knocked it out of the park. It was like really good readings from this deck, and you're worried it's going to stop reading. So that actually happened to me with my Robin Wood tarot. So with my Robin Wood tarot, I had a great relationship with that deck. And then I bought another tarot deck. It might have been like the Crystal Visions Tarot or something like that. And I was like, oh, I think I might like this deck better. And so I shelved the Robin Wood Tarot for like a year and I didn't read with it. And then after that year, I got it back out. I'm like, I'm going to do a reading. And it was off. All my readings were off. All the cards I got were like the Tower. Ten of Swords, like all of those cards. I would just get those again and again and again. And it was like my deck was mad at me. So it happens. It happens that you can read with a tarot deck for a while, and then all of a sudden you just don't connect with that deck, or the deck doesn't connect with you. Um, so yeah, that can happen. And usually when this happens, I will cleanse my cards. I'll get my sage out. I'll sage the deck. Another way to clear my deck is I'll knock on it like 3 times and just kind of brush off the energy, shuffle it, charge up a crystal, put it on top. There's different methods of clearing your deck. But usually when that happens, your deck needs to be cleared, and maybe you need to do something to kind of connect with that deck again, and kind of like a relationship. If you've put a relationship on ice for a while and kind of neglected it, you might have to do some things to like reconnect with that person. It's kind of similar with tarot. All right. Okay, so I'll just share this comment. Sabatma, I really love your content. I'm in a medical residency right now. I'm pretty disconnected from tarot, hoping to come back soon. Yeah. And I've gone through phases too where haven't been as into tarot. I haven't been as connected to that kind of stuff. And I feel like I'm a little bit like that with my spiritual practice, like especially with meditation. I go through phases where I make meditation a priority every single day. And then I'll go through phases where life just gets really busy. I don't feel like I have the time or the space to meditate. And really what it is I don't want to. Like I don't feel like it. I don't feel like meditating. And so I don't. And then I come back to it later. And I think it's okay to have those breaks, honestly. Okay. My friend told me tarot decks are like jealous children. If you don't use them regularly, they stop working for you. Do you think that's true? That actually has kind of been my experience with some decks. Not all decks, but definitely with the Robin Wood deck for sure. Um, yeah, I think there's probably some truth to that. That's funny. Okay, Seer Swaro, how do you handle emotionally sensitive or difficult readings? I mean, I handle them with care. And I think when someone is in an emotionally vulnerable place when they get a reading, they are vulnerable and they might take what you say more seriously than they should. And so I always preface my reading. I'll say, take what I say with a grain of salt. And you might find some things resonate, some things don't. I encourage people not to use a tarot reading to make decisions. Like make decisions on your own. The tarot reading can help you think things through and see things differently and get ideas, but I don't think anyone should use a tarot reading to make a decision just based on something that was in the tarot reading. That's not how I use my readings, and I don't encourage other people to use readings like that either. And you might find that surprising that I say that, since I'm a tarot reader and I'm really into tarot, but I would never use what came up in a tarot reading to make a decision. I would always go inward. I would always, mull things over, think things through. Something that comes up in a tarot reading that, that might help me see things differently. It might give me some ideas. But I wouldn't just make a big decision based on something that came up in a tarot reading. So I would maybe explain that before doing the reading if I felt like someone was in kind of an emotionally vulnerable spot. But how do you handle emotionally sensitive or difficult readings? I think we have to handle these kinds of readings with care and tenderness and compassion. So something that I do in all my readings, not just emotionally sensitive or difficult readings, because you never know what's going on for someone. They might be in an emotionally sensitive place and you can't necessarily tell. And some people wear their heart on their sleeve and it's obvious, but other people you don't know. And so I think that it's important as a tarot reader for me to do a reading from a place of empathy and compassion. And I always avoid saying really extreme things or saying things in this like really definitive way. Like, this is how things are, like I avoid doing that in my readings. Um, yeah. And I think when someone's in a difficult spot and they're emotionally sensitive and they come for a reading, simply holding a space for them and giving them different options and different ways of looking at something can be really valuable. So that's my answer. Okay, so I think that's it. I think I've answered all the questions. If anyone is here and they have one more question, I'll take it, but I'm going to wrap things up because I've been babbling at you for an hour and a half. So I'm going to wrap things up pretty quickly here. Um, Oh, I like this question. Okay, I'll answer this one last question from Swaro, and then I'm going to wrap things up. Um, so you have been in the tarot game for a long time. So I am curious about this. What has tarot taught you about yourself? Oh, I love this question. I think this is the perfect question to end on. And I just see there's one more question. What tarot card describes you the most? I'm going to answer that one too, because I think that's also a good, good question to end on. So, what has tarot taught you about yourself? Hmm. So, learning tarot and reading tarot has actually really reinforced the idea that the answers are within ourselves. And when we work with intuitive tarot reading techniques, it helps you unearth those answers. And I'm going to give like a really specific example. Let's say I'm in a quandary and I don't know what to do. I don't know what I should focus on. I don't know what the next step is. And I ask my tarot cards, what's the next step? And I get the Queen of Pentacles. I will look at this card and I'll read it intuitively. So I'll notice, what emotions, what feelings come up for me with this card. Number one, I'm relieved to get this card. I like this card. And then I'll notice where my attention goes. And this is something interesting that I've learned over the years with tarot is to trust where your attention goes. So your attention is going to lead you where it needs to go. So follow where your attention goes. So when I look at this card, my attention goes right to the pentacle. That's what I'm noticing. Now, another day, it might go to the mountain in the background, or the red dress, or the rabbit, or something like that. But right now, it's going to the pentacle. And so then I'll contemplate that symbol and I'll trust myself that my mind is going to take me to wherever it needs to go to get the answers. And I'm looking at that pentacle and I'm thinking, what does it remind me of? What do I think it symbolizes? And to me, it symbolizes a goal, like having one goal. And so then I'm going to go, okay, I need to set a goal. I need to have a goal, one thing, focus on one thing at a time. So that would be the advice I get from this card. Set a goal, have it be just one goal, focus on one thing at a time. And then, of course, there's other things I might get from this card. I might then ask myself, what's my attention drawn to next, and kind of take it from there. But to answer your question, the thing that tarot has really taught me to do is to sit with a card and let my mind wander and kind of go on a bit of a meandering journey through the card. And from there, it's fascinating what kinds of insights and ideas can come up. So that's kind of what it's taught me about myself. Um, and I'm going to answer one more question. I love this one. What card describes you the most? I like to think the High Priestess, but probably the Hermit. The Hermit does describe me. I'm not always in hermit mode, but I love the Hermit. The Hermit is all about being in solitude, alone time, meditation. So I really resonate with the Hermit in a lot of ways, but also the High Priestess. And the High Priestess is also kind of similar to the Hermit in that she's about, finding the answers within. And actually, what I just said for the last question was kind of High Priestessy, like going inward and exploring the inner planes and the inner realms is all, things that the High Priestess would do. So maybe it's the High Priestess or the High Priestess and Hermit card combined. All right. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all your questions. These were like the best questions. I couldn't have asked for better questions. These were fantastic. So thank you everyone for asking your questions. It's been an honor to hang out with you and chat with you. And of course, I hope you can join me for my 4-week tarot course, the Daily Tarot Girls Guide to Intuitive Tarot Card Reading. I'm going to post the link to my course. Sign up now. Hopefully I'm not being too obnoxious here with it. So yeah, I just posted the link to my course if you want to learn more, if you want to check it out. It's 4 weeks of intuitive tarot lessons with me. I teach you kind of my signature style of reading tarot intuitively. We cover different intuitive techniques. I walk you through opening up to your intuition and how you can start seeing yourself as psychic and intuitive and how you can start really connecting with that part of yourself. We cover tarot spreads, we cover reversals, we cover connecting with the tarot card meanings. We talk about the 4 suits, and everything in between. There's a lot. It's all on the sales page if you're interested. So I hope you can join me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed already. And I wish you the best of luck in your tarot journey. And I hope you keep coming back to my channel for learning about the cards. Again, it's been an honor to spend time with you today. So thanks again for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.